What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and let's get right into today's Reddit posts. Her little psychos pulled knives on my kids, but she called the cops on us? So I've posted here before about the lady with 2 young kids across the way. We live in a bad part of town in identical apartment buildings that face each other, with about 10 feet of grass between where the kids like to play. The entitled mother doesn't like to watch her kids, about 4 and 5, while they play outside, so they are always causing trouble since no one is there to stop them. Last weekend, my kids were playing with our sprinkler, and we did allow the mean kids to play at first too, but the boys started pushing and hitting again. So I put the sprinkler away, and we decided we just wouldn't acknowledge those kids. Well, they didn't like that. They came back with 1 steak knife each, and started to threaten my kids. I told them I would call the cops if they didn't leave, so they ran back into their apartment and came out with different weapons. The girl had a large butcher knife and the boy had a baseball bat. They waved them around threatening to hurt my kids, so I called the cops. I wasn't going to get cut or smacked trying to get to their door to talk to their mom. As soon as the cops show up, the kids drop their weapons in front of their door and run inside. Of course, the mother denied everything, even though she wasn't outside to see anything. But the knives were right there, so DCFS still got involved, Department of Children and Family Services. The entitled mother blames me for having a DCFS visit and is taking it out on my kids now. Our building has a flat sidewalk while her building has a wooden ramp down the side the kids like to use with their bikes and skates. No one has any problem with it, and entitled mom never had a problem until after DCFS. She came outside today to yell at my kids for using her ramp. The ramp is on the side of the building while her unit is smack dab in the middle. It doesn't even connect to her unit. I told her the kids are fine where they are, and the chaos ensued. She was just looking for a reason to go off, and boy did she. It was mostly a lot of overlapping threats and insults. She gathered a crowd of her friends to join in, while I sat near my kids as they played to make sure nothing happened. I threw back a couple of insults because I'm a hothead. Silly things like she called me fat, so I mentioned how she has no teeth. That led to threats of bodily harm against me from the whole group. At one point, the entitled mom threatened to call her baby daddy to, quote, curb stomp me, and I laughed at how trashy that sounded. She continued to yell about my kids on her property. When it became apparent that I wasn't going to make my kids stop playing, she called the cops for trespassing. The officer tried to explain that she couldn't have me trespass for several reasons. The first one being she didn't own any of the land outside her door, but she wouldn't stop yelling about how much of a bother my kids are. Now I should mention that the lady whose apartment is actually connected to the ramp had had her windows open before the whole ordeal and had been chit-chatting politely as the kids played, so I know they weren't being too loud. We were far more than 6 feet from entitled mom's door, and it had been just my kids and I, with a nice neighbor popping up in the open window from time to time, until entitled mom's kids looked around the corner and then ran inside to tell on us. Currently, I'm sitting in my camp chair by my door, listening to her tell the story over and over, with embellishments, to anyone who will listen. 3 guys have shown up so far to try to intimidate me, but it hasn't worked. They haven't come over to me, just screaming insults from their side and trying to goad me into reacting. It's like a trailer park convention over there. Update. I thought it was over. One of the guys she had called over to help intimidate me wasn't happy I was still sitting outside. He came striding over to me to start yelling about staying away from his woman. He did that thing people do to be more intimidating where they walk up to you and stop an inch from your face. I guess he expected me to back off because he got so close to me that my chin went into his mouth while he was yelling. That felt so weird. When I didn't blink, he turned and stormed back to his car, yelling about me the whole way. One of the other guys called the cops on me again for something I don't even know. We hadn't spoken to each other since the police showed up the first time. They took the people's statements but said nothing else to me. Entitled mom then started screaming for him to do his job, and in the midst of arguing with the cops, he found that one of the guys had a couple warrants, and another one had drugs in his car. Karma. Entitled mom insists I'm a predator at the pool, all because I'm homeless. I wish I hadn't acquired the story. This took place earlier today. Before I get into it, I should let you know I am a homeless vagabond, or transient as some like to say. All you need to know is I live in the woods, because of circumstances. I'm trying to fix that, and I guess it's important to the story. There is an indoor public pool not far from me. It's open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday for adult swim. It costs $2 and they have showers inside. I go every day to have a shower and get cleaned up, smelling fresh. I don't want to be a dirty hobo. I don't go swimming. I just shower and go on my way. Honestly, it's the cheapest and closest option. I had been walking 90 minutes to a truck stop, but that was $5. As I said, I go every day. Unfortunately, someone took notice. Her name is Karen. I walked through the entrance, paid my $2, and went to the men's locker room. I had my shower, got all sparkly clean, got changed, and walked out of the changing room to start my day. And that's when I met Karen standing outside the door, hands on her hips. She was waiting for me. I guess she had noticed me coming in and leaving every day without swimming, or maybe it was the big scraggly beard. She had me pegged as homeless. I don't know, I didn't think it was something I screamed of. The first thing out of Karen's mouth as she stared daggers at me was, "You don't belong here." I wasn't paying much attention, so I politely asked, "Sorry lady, what was that?" She said, "You can't be here. It's a safety risk." I replied, "I know how to swim." Karen exclaimed that it's not safe for her kids, that she can't allow predators around her kids. She didn't use the word predator, she used the hard P word. I got a bit upset. I didn't yell, just got snarky. I said, "Lady, there ain't no kids here. I come in the morning when it's just us old folks. I come for a shower, I pay my $2, and if you don't like it, complain to someone else. I don't give a flying expletive." Man, Karen marched off. I thought it was funny, mostly because she reminded me of a pigeon the way she walked. Karen really defined the name. She got the manager, in this case, the head lifeguard. She marched back to me with the lifeguard in tow, yelling and pointing, saying I have to go, screaming that I can't stay for the safety of her children. The lifeguard got to me and asked, "What's going on?" I said, "Hey man, she's crazy. I paid my money, had a shower, and now I'm trying to go." Karen said, "This guy can't be here. It's not safe for the kids." The lifeguard looked at her like she's crazy and said, "It's Adult Swim. Aren't your kids in school?" I laughed. I said, "Hey man, did I do anything wrong?" "No," he replied. I said, "Okay, well, I have things to do, but I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for the shower." But holy crap, I didn't think I looked that rough. And no, I'm a bit scruffy, and I just washed all my clothes at the coin laundry. But holy crap, I thought I'd never meet a psycho like that. Angry man storms towards me as I am hunting. So a few years ago, my dad, pastor, and I are walking to our stands for a hunt we were trying to put on. We just dropped off my brother on his stand, and when we got to my stand, the floodgates opened. So my dad owns land from his real estate company that he owns. We post all the lands, put up posted signs, because we continually have trespassers and we don't want any issues. So we get to my stand and there is this couple walking their dog, the entitled husband and his wife. So they see us and begin to walk away, but my dad and pastor wave them down. So they stop to talk with my dad. My dad starts talking to them that it is private property and they cannot be here. The entitled husband looks around and says, "Well, I don't see any signs up." We put signs along the property line. That got my dad mad because the entitled husband was already being aggravated with my dad. So my dad adjusted his shotgun on his shoulder because it was falling off and got into his face. He said, "Do you have signs up on your property?" The wife whimpered, No, let's not do this. We are going." She tried to pull her husband along, but he refuses. My dad continues, "How about I go over and walk all over your backyard because I didn't see any signs? It doesn't matter, it's private property." The wife then says, "We don't need any of that, let's go." After cursing and going after my dad, the entitled husband finally takes his wife's lead back the way they came. So my dad finished setting me up on my stand and puts my pastor on his stand, and he gets to his. We all thought that was the end of it and we would be able to continue with our hunt. Wrong. About 5 minutes later, I see the same guy with no wife storming my way, yelling, "Who the f*** do you think you are? There aren't any signs on here and we can walk here. As a matter of fact, do you have permission to be in here? I'm going to call the cops to see if you are allowed in here." I was sitting down but was a little fearful of what might happen if he continued to storm to me. So I stood up and shouldered my shotgun, to partially hope that he sees it and keeps his distance, and I acted like I was ignoring him while keeping an eye on him. This happened about midway through his spiel, to which he took 5 more steps before stopping, and finished his spiel and turned and walked away. I also called my dad on the radio to let him know of what was going on, but my dad didn't reply. Later, my dad was asking about it and asked if I was scared. I said yes, I was. He replied with, "Well, you have a shotgun. If he begins to get too close, use it and tell him to keep his distance. He won't bother you." Everyone thought I was the Karen. So at my work, we do charitable community outreach projects, and I'm on the committee. My task for the Thanksgiving food drive was to ask at Food Lion, local grocery store chain, when they were putting out their food donation boxes. The boxes are filled with non-perishable food items and were around $5 the last time I looked into them. As we are getting near to the 1-month away point, I was expecting them to have put them out, but they hadn't. So I was wondering if they were doing it this year or not. So in my infinite stupidity given this day and age, I found an employee near the registers and asked if I could speak to a manager. Now, I wasn't snotty about it, wasn't scowling or otherwise looking mean when I asked. I went up to the woman at the self-checkout and with a smile I said, "Excuse me, is there a manager I can talk to? I have a question about the food donation boxes." Someone only heard, "Is there a manager I can talk to?" and started yelling, "Oh, shut the hell up, Karen." And every time I opened my mouth to try and defend myself and explain that I'm not being a Karen, this guy would berate me more for being a Karen. For f***'s sake, leave the poor girl alone. It's not her fault for whatever got your panties in a twist. Or, hey everyone, what do you call a guy who's acting like a Karen? Some people were even cheering this guy on. I left and went home, deciding that perhaps a phone call to the local store would be a better option. I did call and got a manager. I apologized for the commotion I caused, and explained that I only had a question and was not complaining about anything. They said it was alright, and that they weren't putting out the boxes until after Thanksgiving, since making sure people have food over the Christmas holidays is more their focus. I thanked them and that was that. It's pretty ironic when you have people thinking that they're calling someone out for being a Karen, and because of that they themselves become the Karen. But seriously, I know asking for a manager these days can be a bit of a meme, but come on, there's plenty of valid reasons to actually ask for a manager. And for someone to hear that and not even have the full context and still create a scene in the way he did, to the point that you make this person leave the store out of shame and embarrassment, you, sir, are the Karen. And that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe for more. So take care, I'll see you next time.